start tonight with that arrest, 2 decades in the making. The murder of Megan McDonald has baffled investigators since March of 2003.
Police cleared the original suspect in the case, one of Megan's ex-boyfriends. They learned the real person of interest in another man got into Megan's car to hang out near Bowser Road in Wallkill, the site where her body was found.
Megan McDonald spent the evening visiting friends and hanging out in town. It was a typical Friday night for the 20-year-old college student, and nobody expected anything unusual. But Megan will never make it home. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. Maybe her plans changed or her phone died. But by morning, things took a dark turn. Her car was found abandoned at an apartment complex, and soon after, her body was discovered on a dirt path outside of town. Megan had been murdered. Welcome to Urban Crime Stories. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for upcoming episodes. At approximately 10:15 a.m. on Sunday, March 16, 2003, a local resident driving along Bowser Road in Wallkill, New York, noticed what appeared to be a body lying just off the road on a dirt path. The driver immediately contacted the police, who arrived within minutes to investigate the scene. The location was a desolate stretch of road surrounded by thick woods, roughly 5 miles from the parking lot of Kensington Manor Apartments, where Megan McDonald's abandoned car had been found the previous day. When the New York State Police arrived, they confirmed that the body was that of a young woman, later identified as 20-year-old Megan McDonald. She was partially clothed, lying face up, and showed signs of significant trauma to the head. The coroner determined the cause of death to be blunt force trauma. The injuries indicated that Megan had been struck multiple times, likely with a heavy object. The brutal nature of the attack led investigators to believe that this was not a random act of violence, but a deliberate, targeted murder. It was evident that she had been killed elsewhere and transported to Bowser Road, where her body was dumped. Investigators noted that there were no clear drag marks, indicating she had been carried or placed in her final position. The surrounding area didn't provide much physical evidence. No murder weapon was recovered, and the loose dirt and fallen leaves made it difficult to find footprints or tire tracks. Detectives quickly connected the body to Megan's car, which had been discovered abandoned on West Main Street in the parking lot of Kensington Manor Apartments on March 15, 2003. The vehicle was locked, with no visible signs of a struggle inside. It was processed for forensic evidence, but no immediate leads emerged. Witnesses from the apartment complex were interviewed, but no one reported seeing anything unusual that night. The timeline of Megan's final hours became a key focus for investigators. On the evening of March 14, 2003, Megan had spent time with friends at a nearby residence in Middletown, New York. According to interviews, she left the gathering around 11:30 p.m., planning to head home. However, she never made it. Investigators believe she was intercepted sometime after leaving the party. What happened between the time she left and the discovery of her car remained a mystery. By late afternoon on March 16th, the crime scene had been processed and Megan's body was transported to the medical examiner's office for a full autopsy. Preliminary findings confirmed the initial observation: multiple blunt force injuries to the head, consistent with being struck by a blunt object. There were no defensive wounds, leading investigators to theorize that she may have been caught off guard or incapacitated quickly. Toxicology reports were ordered to determine whether she had consumed alcohol or any other substances that night. The news of Megan's death spread quickly through the community. Wallkill, a quiet town in Orange County, with a population of just under 30,000, was not accustomed to violent crime. Candlelight vigils were organized almost immediately, with hundreds of people gathering to honor Megan's life and demand justice. Megan's family, devastated by the news, spoke publicly in an emotional plea for anyone with information to come forward. Her older sisters, Karen and Allison McDonald, stood by their mother, Elizabeth, during press conferences, urging the public to assist law enforcement. The timing of her murder was especially painful. Just a year earlier, the family had buried Dennis McDonald, Megan's father, and a retired NYPD detective. In the days that followed, the New York State Police set up a dedicated task force to work on Megan's case. They canvassed the area around Bowser Road and Kensington Manor, searching for witnesses and reviewing surveillance footage from nearby businesses. Every tip was followed, but none provided the breakthrough they desperately needed. Despite the scale of the investigation, Megan's case quickly became challenging. Investigators had no eyewitnesses, no clear motive, and little physical evidence tying anyone to the crime. Early leads pointed to individuals in Megan's social circle, but nothing substantial came of those interviews. Still, detectives were convinced that Megan's killer was someone she knew, someone who had access to her, who had been close enough. Megan McDonald was born on February 14, 1983, in Orange County, New York, the youngest of 4 daughters in a loving family. Her father, Dennis McDonald, was a retired NYPD detective, and her mother, Elizabeth McDonald, was a devoted mother who supported Megan's goals and dreams. Megan was known in her community for her friendly and outgoing personality. She loved spending time with friends, was always smiling, and had big plans for her future. Megan grew up in Middletown and attended Pine Bush High School, where she was a popular student. After graduating, she enrolled at Orange County Community College, working part-time at the Galleria Mall at Crystal Run to support herself. She was determined to build her own path in life, despite the challenges she faced. Losing her father in 2002 was very hard, but Megan tried her best to move forward. At 20 years old, Megan was enjoying life. She had a wide social circle, dated casually, and spent many of her evenings with friends. On March 14, 2003, she spent the evening doing just that, relaxing with people she trusted in Middletown. According to friends, there was nothing unusual about that night. Megan was happy when she left the gathering around 11:30 p.m. But somewhere along the way, something went terribly wrong. Investigators later learned that Megan had been dating casually and may have been in contact with someone she knew before her death. This raised suspicions about people in her social circle. The investigation into Megan McDonald's murder officially began on March 16, 2003, immediately after her body was found on Bowser Road in Wallkill. The case was assigned to the New York State Police, who worked closely with local law enforcement. Given the brutal nature of her death, detectives believed from the beginning that this was a targeted attack, not a random act of violence. In the first 48 hours, investigators focused on piecing together Megan's movements during her final hours. They quickly established a timeline, starting with her whereabouts on March 14, 2003. Megan, as we know it now, had spent that evening with friends in Middletown, New York. Witnesses confirmed that she left a gathering at approximately 11:30 p.m., intending to return home. However, she never made it. The following day, March 15, 2003, Megan's white 1991 Mercury Sable was found abandoned at Kensington Manor Apartments, located on West Main Street in Middletown. The car was locked, and there were no signs of a struggle inside. Investigators processed the vehicle for fingerprints and DNA, but no immediate leads emerged. Detectives began interviewing Megan's friends, co-workers, and anyone who had interacted with her in the days leading up to her death. Several witnesses reported seeing her at the party in Middletown on March 14th, but no one could account for her whereabouts after she left. One of the early problems for investigators was the lack of eyewitnesses who saw anything unusual at either the apartment complex or the dirt path on Bowser Road where Megan's body was found. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses offered little help, as the area around Kensington Manor had limited camera coverage at the time. The investigation initially focused on Megan's social circle, particularly individuals she had recently dated or had conflicts with. This led detectives to Edward Hawley, a man Megan had dated briefly. Hawley quickly became a person of interest, though police did not have enough evidence to charge him at the time. By mid-2003, detectives were operating under the theory that Megan's murder was personal in nature. The level of violence suggested that the killer knew Megan and was likely someone from her immediate circle. They believed the attack may have been motivated by jealousy, revenge, or an argument that escalated out of control. Another individual of interest was Andre Thurston, who had been connected to Megan through mutual friends. Detectives spent months investigating Thurston, and he was considered a significant lead. However, like Hawley, there was no concrete evidence to tie him to the murder. Despite extensive interviews and forensic testing, the case stalled. Detectives collected dozens of DNA samples from individuals in Megan's life, hoping for a match. the evidence was limited, and forensic technology at the time was not advanced enough for any conclusive results. As months turned into years, frustration grew for both the investigators and Megan's family. The case remained open, but leads dried up. And then that was it. The case went cold. By 2006, the investigation had slowed considerably. Detectives continued to review the case periodically, but no significant breakthroughs were made. Megan's family, led by her mother, Elizabeth, and her sisters, Karen and Allison, refused to let the case fade into obscurity. They maintained contact with law enforcement and frequently spoke to the media to keep Megan's story alive, urging anyone with information to come forward. For nearly 2 decades, the investigation into Megan McDonald's murder remained active, but without resolution. That all changed in April 2023, when investigators announced a significant development. After 20 years, Edward Hawley, a longtime person of interest, was formally arrested and charged with second-degree murder in connection with Megan's death. Hawley, now 42 years old, was already incarcerated at the Orange County Correctional Facility in Goshen, New York, on unrelated charges at the time of his arrest. The New York State Police, alongside the Orange County District Attorney's Office, made the announcement during a press conference on April 20th, 2023.
And we believe this crime was intimate partner violence. Additionally, Ed Hawley owed Megan a substantial sum of money.
Do not let his current appearance fool you. This is a vile human being.
They described the arrest as the result of years of renewed efforts and advances in forensic technology. According to law enforcement, new evidence linked Hawley to the crime, providing enough probable cause to make an arrest. Hawley had a known history with Megan. The two had briefly dated, and their relationship had ended prior to her murder. Investigators believed that unresolved personal tensions between the two may have played a role in the motive for the crime. While authorities did not disclose every detail of the new evidence, they hinted that DNA testing and witness statements played a key role. Advances in forensic technology allowed investigators to re-examine evidence that had previously been inconclusive. It was through these efforts that they were finally able to tie Hawley to the murder. Investigators allege that Hawley and Megan had an argument on the night of her murder, possibly over money he owed her, which escalated into violence. They believe he struck her multiple times with a blunt object, killing her. He then allegedly transported her body to Bowser Road and abandoned it in the secluded area where it was later found. Edward Hawley had been on investigators' radar for years. After briefly dating Megan, his life spiraled into a series of legal troubles, including multiple arrests for drug-related offenses and theft. Hawley denied the allegations during his initial interviews with police. His defense team immediately claimed that the evidence against him was circumstantial and planned to challenge the prosecution's case in court. Over the years, Megan McDonald's family began to feel that something was wrong with how her case was being handled. In March 2024, they decided to take action. They filed formal complaints against Orange County District Attorney David Hoovler and several other attorneys, accusing them of behaving unethically and possibly breaking the law during the investigation. The family's complaint was sent to the Grievance Committee for the 9th Judicial District. It focused on serious claims like offering secret plea deals to Edward Hawley, the main suspect, without informing the police, and hiding conflicts of interest. One of the biggest issues in the complaint was that David Hoovler had a personal connection to the case. Before becoming the district attorney, Hoovler had been a defense lawyer for Andre Thurston, an early suspect in Megan's murder. When Hoovler became district attorney in 2014, Megan's family asked him to step away from the case because of this connection, but he refused. The family said Hoovler lied to them about his involvement and even changed his story during different meetings with them to cover up the conflict. The most shocking claim was that in 2022, Hoovler tipped off Edward Hawley that he was the police's top suspect. He allegedly warned Hawley that the police were listening to his phone calls and offered him a secret plea deal without telling the investigators. Megan's family believed this seriously hurt the investigation and delayed justice. The complaints didn't stop at Hoovler. The family also filed complaints against several attorneys from the Orange County District Attorney's Office. According to the family, these attorneys knew about Hoovler's conflict but didn't report it, which they were required to do by law. The complaints were officially filed with the Grievance Committee in White Plains, New York. The family demanded a full investigation, saying these actions slowed down the case for years and made it harder to get justice for Megan. The Detectives Endowment Association, which represents NYPD detectives, stood by the family. They publicly supported the idea of a larger investigation and asked the FBI and New York's governor to step in and help. By 2025, the case against Edward Hawley was finally heading toward trial. Hawley had been charged with second-degree murder, and the prosecution was preparing to present new forensic evidence that had been reanalyzed using modern technology. This trial would be the first time the full story of what happened to Megan McDonald would be told in court. The trial will center on key evidence gathered over the past 20 years, with a special focus on recent advancements in forensic science that helped investigators build a stronger case. In 2003, DNA testing was still evolving, and investigators needed a large sample to extract a usable DNA profile. Much of the evidence collected from Megan's car and the crime scene on Bowser Road had been tested using the best methods available at the time, but the results were inconclusive. By 2023, technology had advanced significantly. Forensic scientists could now detect touch DNA, which is trace amounts of skin cells left behind from mere contact. Investigators likely re-examined items such as Megan's clothing, her car door handle, and objects from the crime scene, recovering micro-level DNA evidence. Even the smallest traces could help establish Hawley's presence at the scene. If no nuclear DNA profile was initially obtainable, mitochondrial DNA testing could have been used to analyze older or degraded samples. This technique is especially useful for evidence such as hair and bones. With advanced software, forensic scientists can now analyze partial DNA profiles and compare them to criminal databases far more accurately than before. This technology may have helped link previously unidentifiable evidence to Hawley. Trace evidence, including fibers, hair, soil, and microscopic materials, was also reanalyzed. Evidence collected from the dirt path where Megan's body was found may have contained tiny fibers or particles that linked back to Hawley or his belongings. Electron microscopy and energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy, known as EDS, were likely used to detect materials that would have gone unnoticed in 2003. Although digital forensics was not a key component of the initial investigation, modern technology allowed detectives to revisit cell tower data and communications from Hawley's phone around the time of Megan's murder. This data may have placed Hawley near the crime scene or Megan's last known location on March 14th or 15th, 2003, helping investigators create a more accurate timeline. In addition to physical evidence, experts in behavioral analysis and psychological profiling worked with investigators to assess Hawley's relationship with Megan, his behavior patterns, and his potential motives. Hawley's history of violent outbursts and unresolved personal conflicts with Megan became important to understand why he might have killed her. Another critical part of the trial will involve witness testimony. Investigators re-interviewed key witnesses in recent years. Witnesses who were reluctant to speak in 2003 were more willing to share details later. Detectives compared old interviews with new ones, identifying discrepancies and uncovering additional information that helped support the prosecution's case. Prosecutors are expected to argue that Hawley attacked Megan during a heated argument, likely about money he owed her. They will present the forensic evidence, witness statements, and a clear timeline of Megan's final hours to paint a picture of what happened. The combination of new DNA evidence and phone data will be central to their case. Hawley's defense team, on the other hand, will most probably focus on creating doubt. They will argue that the passage of time has weakened the evidence and that there is no direct proof tying Hawley to the murder scene. They may claim that someone else could be responsible and question the reliability of the forensic results. If found guilty of second-degree murder, Hawley could face 25 years to life in prison. If the defense succeeds in creating reasonable doubt, Hawley could be acquitted. Either way, the trial is expected to be long and closely followed by the public, as it represents the culmination of 20 years of waiting for justice for Megan McDonald. The trial for Edward Hawley, accused of the 2003 murder of Megan McDonald, is scheduled to begin on March 3, 2025. In preparation for the trial, a significant pretrial decision was made recently. Orange County Court Judge Hyun-Chin Kim ruled that statements Holly made to police between 2003 and 2021 are admissible in court. This trial will be an opportunity to uncover the full story of what happened on March 14, 2003, and why Megan's life was taken so tragically. With new forensic evidence, witness testimony, and the results of years of investigative work, the prosecution is determined to prove that Edward Holly is responsible for Megan's death. For Megan's family, the journey has been filled with unimaginable pain. The loss of their daughter and sister was made even harder by the long wait for answers. Yet they never gave up. Their strength and determination kept the case alive, and now they finally will be able to witness the trial that's supposed to bring justice to Megan. Thank you for watching until the end. Please share your thoughts about this case in the comments below. Remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for upcoming episodes. Your support is greatly appreciated. Until next time, I will see you on Urban Crime Stories.